hills to country to educate, elevate, and promote. Yeah, focus on Liberia, for Liberia, Liberia, for Liberia. From Monday to Sunday. From Monday to Sunday, it's focus on Liberia. Talk about home affairs, in diaspora, current affairs, reliable information. Education, entertainment, business, sports, advertisement, articulation. Focus on Liberia. Focus on Liberia. Focus on Liberia. From Monday to Sunday.
Go ahead, Victor.
Welcome, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to Friday Night Debate. This is J. Victor Nagbe sitting in tonight for Dennis Jar. For tonight, our debaters include from the nation's capital. Let's welcome Mr. Jimmy Eastman. Jimmy. Jimmy, go ahead.
Hey, Mr. Nagbe.
Welcome, Jimmy.
Yeah, it's a pleasure to be here with these gentlemen, talking about the current affairs of our beloved nation. It's an honor. Looking forward to hearing from y'all.
It's good to have you. And next, let's introduce Father Elijah Washington.
Thanks, Victor. I'm glad that you're sitting in our seat today. It's a privilege to be on the show and to share this platform with our illustrious sons of the church, of the country. Whenever we have the opportunity to be able to share our thoughts and exchange ideas with our compatriots from home, it's a humbling experience for us. So I'm glad to be on the show. Thank you.
It's good to have you. Next, let's welcome Dr. Clarence Pearson.
Thank you, Jimmy. Thanks for having me. Just want to say hi to everyone in social media space, on the radio, wherever you're listening to us from, especially in Liberia and across the world. We want to say it's a pleasure being on the show tonight. We look forward to an exciting exchange.
It's good to have you. And let's welcome our resident UPPist. Let's welcome Mr. Aliu Kamara.
Yeah, thank you for having me, Mr. Pearson. I don't think I've met you before. Yeah, but good to see you. I'm very familiar with all of the other guys. The only thing I haven't been hearing lately is the word riveting. Mr. Ismail, what happened to that word? You dropped it? Riveting discussion.
Riveting. It's good to have you, Mr. Kamara. For tonight's debate, the issues are tonight we'll discuss the new motorcyclist regulation that have been introduced by the Liberia National Police. We'll discuss President Boakai's recent delegation to the U.S. We'll look at the Labor Ministry's apparent attempt to go against the hiring freeze. And debaters, are you ready? Let's take on topic number one, which would be the new regulations introduced for motorcyclists in Monrovia. Jimmy, before I go to Jimmy, I'd like to hear from the government's point of view. Let's bring in Mr. Aliu Kamara. Mr. Kamara. Do we think these regulations go too far? Are they too stringent? Do we think they're fair? Are they good for safety, or do we just think they're too unreasonable?
Yeah, you see, the truth is that the road needs safety. The motorcyclists, they need to be regulated. We have seen, we know the history is there, and it hasn't been that long ago. Motorcyclists have been law unto themselves, so these measures should be put in place. The only thing is, for me, is I think the decision was made in a way that had me thinking. Because how can the IG switch immediately from, a no-go zone in a matter of 10 days, switch to actual legal policies, regulations? These things that he just said have been on a book, but those are not the things that he came out with. Those were not the things that he came out with. And moreover, he's doing it only from EWA Junction to Central Monrovia. So those that are riding on a big freeway like the Somalia Drive, those people, as far as they're concerned, those people, their lives doesn't matter for now, for the next 90 days. So any crashes or accidents taking place in those other areas, those are acceptable. That's what I have a problem with.
So, in other words, you think they're being unfairly?
If you were pass such a regulation, that'd be nationwide. Period.
Okay. Thank you, Dr. Pearson. Your take?
Thank you, Victor. I would like to begin by saying we shouldn't be mistaken when we try to be a little critical about how we approach situation in Liberia. We all are interested in the safety of any motorist, whether it's vehicle or it's motorcycle. The level of safety for any citizen is a priority. So we do support the idea of ensuring that our people are safe as they ply the streets of Monrovia, and like Kamara said, the entire republic for matter. But I think what our challenge has been is how we approach public policy. Are we going to approach it haphazardly, or are we going to be strategic about it? All right, because in development there is something called the social development theory. And there are many aspects, many factors that impact the policy decision making of a nation. So if not careful, then we see what's happening in Monrovia right now, where people can hardly get to job on time, people can hardly get on campuses on time, people missing the test, people missing job, people working and the businesses are not fully producing, and even the cyclists. Motorcycle being one of the dominant means of income for young people. All right, the income is now being stalled. The sense of the means of livelihood is now being disrupted in a significant way. So how do we prepare for all of these factors? How do we prepare for all of these situations? For example, did we say, for instance, we'll have buses plying the street of the principal street of Monrovia to accommodate the absence of and to accommodate the public in absence of the motorcyclists while they're trying to get in line with the policy? And what are we doing about this? We just leave it, to have this ripple effect until we reach to a place where there's mass protest, or there's some outcry from the public that they cannot bear more. So I think these are some of the things we ought to be looking at. And I just call on the IG to ensure that we take more, we be cognizant, I should say, more about how we prepare before instituting policies.
And to your point, I quite agree with you. I mean, research shows that the choice of the motorcycle or tricycle is becoming an increasing choice for the continent. I think by 2020, there were about, say, from, I believe, in 2010, where there were around 6 million. I think by 2020, research showed there were about 27 million on the continent already. So this is they're here to stay with us. I think our planners, need to take them into consideration as they do city planning. But let's welcome the unabashed citizen on the show, Mr. Jerome Gaiman. Welcome, Gaiman.
Thank you very much. I actually didn't want to come on the show because it looks like we are here to bash Joseph Boakai. And I try to dig deeper within my soul to say something positive. about this administration and the so-called competent people that were brought to power, but for some reason I can't find anything. And the motorcycle is what's going on in Liberia. It's a total disgrace to those of us who, when we enter Liberia, the folks will say, oh, they don't come back from America with their big degrees. They can't bring our problem. And this is exactly what the people mean when they say we come with our problem instead of solving problem. Settle planning.
You're only supposed to introduce yourself.
Mr. Boakai, thank you very much. I'm glad to be here.
All right. Welcome, Jerome. You will have your turn. Jimmy, there are concerns that the rollout, the implementation leading to the rollout of the policy, as is almost the case with everything in Liberia, seems to reflect a kind of shallow thought and planning. What is your thought on this?
You know, the last time I was in Liberia, I was chanced to visit the hospital, and they have a ward dedicated to motorcycle accidents alone. It is very frequent, and it is very alarming, the amount of damage that people incur riding motorcycles unprotected by helmet. According to the statistics, that a person wearing not wearing a helmet is 88% more likely to incur a very serious injury in crashes. So there is a legitimate concern that we have to protect the health and welfare of the people who ride these vehicles. However, at the same time, we noticed that there was a pronouncement first to preclude the motorcyclists from riding certain roads in the country. They wanted to restrict them to certain areas. And the reason being for the flow of traffic and for the convenience of the vehicles getting around. And then, in a surprising turn of events, we saw that they were again allowed to continue plying certain streets, but then the restriction of helmets was imposed on them in order for them to do it. There was a lot of brouhaha. There was a lot of backlash from motorcyclists alike, who make up a very potential disgruntled group in Liberia. And so we saw the change of mind. Now, what should the government do? Protect the health? Is this a political move, or is it a move to protect public safety? I believe that we must protect public safety, but I'm concerned that the amount of time given for them to implement this is short. So, like one of the panelists says, I don't know. I think it was Pearson. I don't know what evaluation did they go into before coming up with this law. Did they study it properly? Did we provide the logistics? Do we have helmets in the country? Have we given them enough chance to procure or secure these helmets? I think these things have to be considered. It is a good idea. And throughout, just the other day in Cotonou, Benin, they've had the similar problems that, the residents have been riding motorbike instead of taking taxis and whatnot. And it's a problem that we see all around West Africa. So why I mentioned that is implementing this is not something that hasn't been done before. I think we need to follow the examples of those who've gone ahead and the challenges they faced, and not have to reinvent the wheel. What did they do? What are the mistakes they made? I think we need a more wholesome approach at anything we do. We need to study, we need to examine data, and then come up with the resolution. I think these knee-jerk ordinances and new laws, they need to be examined properly before implemented. Other than that, I think it's something we just have to do. We have to do what we can to protect public safety, and that means we do need everybody wearing helmets. But we need to give them enough time, we need to give them enough education, and we need to provide the logistics that they will require to adhere to the new regulation.
I think you raised a good point, Jimmy. The question of logistics. I am not sure, again, the planning, how much thought was put into acquiring, for instance, the helmets in country. And then considering the cost, because I understand that the motorcyclists are required to take up insurance, which I think is about around $9,500 per year. And then there is also the ECOWAS registration that they have to also buy. So these are all additional costs that are being imposed, and now they have to buy 2 helmets. So, Father Washington, on the day that this policy was being rolled out, I mean, like Jimmy was saying, the poor planning kind of laid bare. I mean, the city was congested. People had to walk long distances. And then, of course, there is the threat of a strike by the riders, the motorcyclists. Do you think that watering down this policy as it has been done has more or less defeated the whole purpose of this policy?
I think this is belated, and I think this should be something that should have been implemented a long time ago. Do I think that it's been defeated? No. Do I think there will be obstacles? Yes, there will be obstacles. There will be people who would not want to conform. It's a common human attitude to not want to conform, to not want to. When I listen to a lot of the motorcyclists, all they complain about was that, oh, we need more time. Give them 1 year, it's going to be the same. It's going to be the same thing. Give them 2 years, it's going to be the same thing. People just don't want to conform. People just don't want to do the right thing. And when I listen to a lot of them, they say, oh, I mean, it's expensive to be able to buy helmets. It's expensive to be able to buy, I don't know what is the name of the vest that
Insurance.
Yeah, to that. Yeah, why wouldn't the one who has the motorcycle be the one to pay for it? Why should it be the one who's riding? Why would it be the one who's riding has to pay for the helmet and everything? It should be the one who has the motorcycle say, hey, I mean, these are the requirements that I need to have now to be able to run there, to be able to do the business I'm doing. So I'm asking you to be able to run the bike. So for me, I think this is the right thing. Even if it's one person who is being prevented from not being killed or not dying on our roads, I think that's the right thing. Even if it's one road in Liberia that they say, hey, for the good of our country, for the good of safety, this should be happening. Let it happen. I mean, I live here. I mean, where I live, the road to in June, the road that comes to my house is always blocked. Everybody comes and park in front of my yard because I live by the park. So there's a huge celebration going on. Sometimes they don't tell you. I can't even come to my house. Police just block the whole street. Sometimes I have to walk, park my car somewhere and walk. This inconvenience will happen. And for the good of people. So, I mean, Liberia is not like no exemption. So sometimes, yeah, it's going to be hard for a lot of these motorcyclists but when I listen to a lot of them, initially, when this regulation was put in place, when it was announced, there was agitation. They didn't want to do it. And then there was a dialogue. And then when that dialogue was made and they were given more time, they were all jubilating. Oh, they're happy about it. Now they're going to get insurance. They're going to have their helmets and everything. Then the day comes, and then they stay complaining. So give them 2 years, give them 3 years. It's going to be the same story. We need to start from somewhere. I mean, if they have issues, we can work around that, but we need to put systems in place so that people can be saved. I mean, I used to live in Liberia. It is difficult to drive in a city. They were the motorcycles, they were the ride all over the place. So it's for the good, it's good for the good safety of everyone else. So for me, I think it's belated. I mean, they will complain, they will cry. Like some people would say, okay, did they think about it? I think the police put a lot into it. That could they have done more? Yeah, maybe they could have done more. But hey, let's start from somewhere. Let's do something for the safety of our people. I have brothers and sisters who got wounded, who got hurt from this motorcycle thing. I even said to one of them, hey, stop riding motorcycle because it's dangerous to ride motorcycle in Liberia. So I think this is the time, and I think that's the beginning, and let's continue with that way. If there are other questions that need to be answered, like let's start from there, but then do something about the safety of our people.
Yeah, I mean, I think you're right. There's always going to be a pushback on any policy, no matter how well intentioned and how best it is rolled out. But Jerome, there are a lot of concerns about how this whole policy was planned and rolled out. Like was stated previously, the motorcyclists, and they're probably here to stay with, but they're going to be a fixture now in our national planning. Do you foresee going forward infrastructure planning, planners taking into consideration maybe plan the roads in a way that a certain portion of the road is probably set aside for our motorcyclists? Maybe some physical divider that has been done in other countries, because I think the concern shouldn't just be wearing helmet. It should be how they ride, how they ply the streets. What do you think, Jerome?
And I was just about to say, I know Mr. Kamara doesn't like this, but this is the stupidest thing I've ever seen. One of the things that we usually talk about the last time we were here, I think I showed you a picture of the problem that was being held in the United States and the solution to that. In the United States, we have a bike lane now for motorcyclists and regular bike riders. Okay, they did that. That's city planning. That's planning. That's what they did before they put a law in place. In fact, there is a law now. In fact, in the United States here, you're supposed to wear a helmet, and there is a federal lawsuit here where the motorcyclists challenge the federal government, whether this is the infringement of the freedom of speech and the freedom of movement. Do I have the right as an individual, as a free American, to ride my bike as I see fit? If I die, isn't it I that pay the ultimate price? So these are what we are talking about. Now you're talking about a country where the entire police force is $4,500, including $4,500, including personnel. So you tell me that do you have enough security to surveil the entire 15 counties? Or do you want to put your resources in other things that are now pending? As we speak, there is a video that we recorded, and we're going to share it with you, that it has gotten so bad with the transportation in Monrovia that at certain area, the Unity Party pickup truck are now going, they have stops where they say rescue folks come and the people jump in there and they are trying to take them to work and drop them home. That is terrible. That tells you that there were no planning, there were no forecasts, there were no statistics, there were no research done as to what will this policy do. The reason for policy is usually to solve a problem. But if you didn't do your homework and the policy is creating more problem, now people are not getting to work. So you are losing a country that doesn't produce anything at all. It's losing the workforce that was dormant anyway, not doing anything, but the little they were doing, they are not getting to work. People are not getting to the market on time. Market women are not getting home on time. We are talking about security issues here at night when it's dark. How do these people get home? This is our only means of transportation beyond the major routes in Liberia, not just Monrovia. So to me, yes, we have to start funding for somewhere, but if I were prioritizing city, I would prioritize things like maybe sanitation. the dirt in the city is still there piling up. I would have prioritized a drug. In fact, I got new drug now in Monrovia they call zombie. These are things that you could prioritize that will have a direct impact on the society. Then 4,000 police officers chasing 5 million people is impossible.
Yeah,
Mr. Nagbe.
Jerome, hang on, Alio.
Yeah,
I agree with you that there are competing priorities, but the research on countries where this motorcycle thing has become probably one of the staples of transportation. The rates of death, Burkina Faso, where I think the highest density is the deaths are about 70% of the deaths that are due to motorcycle accidents. So I think this is a priority that the government is trying to arrest. Don't you think this is a priority? I know you talk about drugs, absolutely, but I think they're looking at the numbers. What do you think?
Oh, if you were to catalog and juxtapose the number of motorcycle accidents to the number of people that are addicted to drugs that are dying, it is minuscule. If you were to juxtapose the number of the sanitation issue, the dirt in the city.
Is that what your statistics are revealing to you?
Yes.
Okay.
If you talk about 4,000, 5,000 people on motorcycle in Liberia, and you're talking about whether people say about 40,000 young folks are addicted to drug and the number growing, 5,000 compared to 40,000 and growing, the number is very minuscule. What I'm saying here is, if I were the administrators, when I look at things like sanitation, we got dirt all over the place. We don't have any running water. We don't have electricity. And then you leave those heavy lifting that will impact the lives of folks to actually elevate the economy, the base. And then you are spending a lot of money, the resources of the police, instead of fighting crime. They are chasing motorcyclists around. It just doesn't make sense.
All right, Mr. Cameron, I know you wanted to come in. As you're coming in, can you expand a little bit more on your observation? I quite agree with you. I think just selecting ELW Road Junction to Monrovia and leaving the rest of the country. I mean, I was in Ganta last year. When you arrive in Ganta, the motorcycle, they're like cicadas. I mean, they are, huge in numbers, and I'm not sure to what extent this policy covers the rest of the country. You had alluded to that, but please go ahead.
Mr. Nagbe, first of all, I think when the guy start talking, you gotta help him. Tell us, man, the election was over in October of last year. Just so you know, Mr. Gilman, the inauguration was on January 22nd. We've already gone up 4 months in this year. The politics at this particular time, we're talking nation building now, come to the point. We have government ministries and agencies that are responsible to have various functions. You can't tell me that the police should leave the streets, should not enforce regulation, laws that were passed in the 70s. They cannot enforce it because there's drug in the country. So they should go and start running after a drug when you have LDEA. You are telling me that the Ministry of Transport cannot focus on the road. They are responsible for road safety because sanitation is not in place. So they should go and do water and sewer job. Mr. Gilman, what's happening here? Come to the issue. The other agencies cannot shut down because there's drug in the country. There are a bunch of other things, and you can chew gum and walk where you can't chew gum and walk at the same time. But most people can chew gum and they can walk at the same time. Mr. Nagbe, the way the enforcement went on, I think it's pretty rookie. It wasn't done with professionalism. And I am not a fan of Gregory Coleman. I think he's more of a guy who's supposed to work with the gender ministry, and stuff like that, than to be a police officer, actually.
Gender ministry, why? Gender ministry, why? Why?
Because he's a very compassionate guy. He will do well protecting women and children, in that area. But as far as providing security, enforcing the law, according to how the Constitution, all of these statutory mandates require it to be enforced. Gregory Coleman will not achieve this thing. And I've said this behind the scenes to a lot of Unity Party people, those who got voice. I've said it to them. Gregory Coleman don't have, this is a man who is talking about carrying the police to make farm. When you have Ministry of Agriculture, what are you going to make farm for? So this guy, how can you pass a regulation for safety and only take less than 10% of Motorcyclist County? Now, I'm not even talking about the whole country. Only less than 10% of Motorcyclist County you're protecting. All the other people can do whatever they want to do. And the freeway from Pittsburgh red light to Freeport, that road is open. Motorcyclists are racing with vehicles on that road. And you wouldn't say, okay, you know what, since we've already failed, already acted weak, we know we don't want to be disgraced by telling the motorcyclists, okay, you can plow the street, even though we have said that you know that the time was going to expire on the 15th of May. Since we have capitulated, we'll just go ahead and say, you know what, the whole nation must therefore follow the law that has been on the book before Gregory Coleman ever became a policeman. That's all he needed to do. But then how's the thing? I'm not a fan of Gregory Coleman.
If I may.
Clearly, yeah, I was just something that confusing. Clearly, IG Coleman doesn't have a vote of confidence, Mr. Kamara. But let's debate us. We're getting ready to move on to the next issue. So why don't we take 1 minute each to go around? If there's anything you think you didn't have a chance to get in on this topic, so we'll start with Dr. Pearson, then we'll go to Father Washington, Mr. Eastman, Mr. Emmett, and Mr. Kamara will have the last shot.
Yeah. So look. If you listen to all of us on the panel right now, I don't think we have problem with the need for safety in the country when it comes to cyclists plying the street. I think where the issue is, and always has been for this government, is the planning and the strategic approach to how they do things. And, and I just want to say to Mr. Kamara is that, you know, we may be beating on gay men, but it is political. All right, coming out of politics, coming out of elections in a new administration that campaign on big promises and said that everything that was done in the past was done wrong, and they came to make the corrections, and they are not making that correction. It's a problem. So let me just quickly say this. Listen, the administration continue to get things wrong. Every time they attempt it, they lose credibility in the eyes of the public. And the more credibility they lose in the eyes of the public confidence will dwindle. And when the public start to lose confidence in the administration, the administration will find it hard selling the policies and what they want to achieve. Another thing is that we've done this before, Victor. During Ellen Johnson's administration with President Boakai, this same approach was used and it failed. It failed because it was not properly planned. It was political again. So we cannot continue to do things without proper planning and then only do it for a few months or a few days and then it crumbles, and then we say, okay, the asset declaration or asset or recovery, and then or the inauguration, we say, you know what, it failed, we let it back on, let's just be quiet about it and move on to something else. We need to do it and do it right, because development has to be sustainable. Whatever you do today, like all of us saying, it should be a broad plan and strategic enough to outlay the initial implementation. I think that's what we need a lot of support to the Liberian government right now.
Thank you, Dr. Pearson. Father Washington?
Well, you know, it's interesting when I listen to Liberians, sometimes when they disagree with a policy, even though it might not be the best, they fall on the whole question about planning. Oh, it's not planned well. It's yeah, these are things that will take time. And if you have better plans, let people know what your plans are. I mean, you can compare. I mean, actually, there are statistics when it comes to accidents in Ganta, an accident in Monrovia. You not compare the two. You can go to Ganta, you see a lot of motorbikes there, but the motorbikes that go in the different parts of the Ganta, they're not applied. The streets are not as crowded as Monrovia is. So definitely there are statistics to back that, and that's the reason why if this shows that Monrovia will be the first place that we start. Let accept that and let it build on that. And you know, for me, I just think that you cannot throw the baby with the bath water. That's something in philosophy we say that because the baby pooped in the water, you kind of take the baby out of the water and throw the water away. You can throw both the baby and the water away. If something happening in the school, work towards it. That built on it. Like built on something. I mean, we can criticize it, you know, but they just think that, oh, this has happened before, so therefore it's not going to happen. It's not going to work. For me, I don't just believe in that. I just like, hey, then one step at a time, one step at a time, and then get there. Because the safety of our people is paramount. And, you know, the number of people who have died from accident and motorbike accident in our country, it's horrendous. And I think this is time now that we nip in the bud. And I think that's a good beginning. I just pray that we continue to provide public safety for our people.
All right, Mr. Eastman.
Okay, so we've all of us identified the need for public safety. But what is alarming is that we have examples in front of us. You know, today the world is driven by data. We look at the data and we make a decision. I mentioned Benin. Benin been having this issue. What did they do when they had to implement or enforce helmet wearing? What did they encounter? What were the different things they had? We don't have to invent the wheel, but I agree with one of the panelists that said we just need a professional approach to implementing these things and not a knee-jerk approach. There are different ways of doing it. Other than that, yeah, we need to do it. But why are we acting so unprofessional? Why are we not taking a holistic approach? I think what Pearson, sustainability. We want to do something that will last. So the only way to do things that will last, if you make a thorough analysis of what needs to be done, and then you implement it. And of course, you have to sell it to the people. You have to let the people be aware of why they have to do these things. That is half the battle, that the people know why they are doing it. Other than that, it's a good idea. Let's keep on moving.
All right. Thank you, Mr. Eastman. Mr. Gimman.
It is comical that I will, for once, agree with Mr. Kamara on one thing. And those of you who are not into public policy or any of these things, there is nowhere in the world where you're going to pass a law and say the law is only applicable to the capital city, but it's not applicable to anywhere else. If they say murder is defined by this, whether you murder somebody in Montserrat or in Boakai or in Grand Bathurst County, murder is murder. You cannot say we start a murder thing here in Monrovia and then we carry it to a different country. That's not how public policy works.
And they're not even covering the whole of Monrovia.
There you go.
But the city that I live in, the policy in my city is different. The policy in the next city.
No, but you talk about city ordinances. No, but that's different. Federal mandates cover. No, listen, sir. You talk about you talk.
You made a
statement. It's a difference, sir. Mr. Washington.
Mr. Washington, let him land. And then if you have
Mr. Washington, if you show me one federal policy that applies only to your city, but that applies to the next city and everywhere else, I want to see that. If you talk about city ordinances that apply to only your city, it makes sense because those are things that are ordinances that are made by the local government. But what I'm saying here is the law cannot be selective. If this is a law that was passed that covers motorcyclists, the first thing you want to do is implementation. The law is passed. How do we implement it? Do we have the manpower to implement this effectively? If the answer is no, why are we wasting so much resources on implementing this particular law when we could actually take some of that funding and do other things that will make the city much safer? For instance, now, people, let's say you worry about people dying on motorcycle, but you are not worried about people being raped, people being robbed, at night walking home in the darkness. If you're not worried about those, but only worried about motorcyclists, then you are solving one problem and creating a whole variety of other problems with public safety. So public safety is not in a vacuum. It's total. It's in its totality we're talking about. from your workplace to your home, from your church to your home, from your work to work. All of these things have to be done. So this is not about politics. And what's funny here is I hear politicians will say, oh, he playing politics with a bill. We are politicians. Medical doctors do medical work. Preachers do preaching. So you can't tell a preacher, oh, you're doing theology. That's what we're supposed to do. We are politicians. These are political promises that were made that are being implemented, but being implemented wrongly. And this is what we are discussing. So it doesn't matter whether it is politics. All of these things are political decisions that have political ramifications. Thank you, Mr. Kamal, for agreeing that the law should not be just Central Monrovia and all the other places, people mugging people and doing other stuff. Thank you.
Mr. Nagbe, he will not shut me up by telling me thank you. Okay? He's not going to shut me up by saying thank you by bothering me up.
Well, no, your turn was coming up.
And your time the next, so how would I shut you up? You are so afraid of me.
Go ahead, Mr. Kamara. Your last input on this.
So let me get this out of the way if I get to give me a little bit. Mr. Inspector Coleman Gregory is a minimalist. And that's the problem I have with him. We don't have 60 years. We don't even have 16 years. We have 6 years. It will fly by before you even know it. How can you pass a regulation that is not a police policy, that is not a contemporary or a temporary policy? This is a law that was written in the 70s, and you just pass it in less than 10% Moravian. I mean, I don't get it. My son is 18. I don't think he will understand that either. But and when my brother Washington say, "Oh, we start small," that's not how you run government. If the government says that you must have 2 seats in a car, I mean 3 persons in the back seat of a taxi, that safety regulation will affect all Liberians, not 10% of Monrovia. That's not how you run government. That is a bad way of doing it, and we will admit these things. Mr. Gilman, how can you conclude here that the police is only concentrating on motorcyclists and nothing else besides the motorcyclists? How do you come up with these conclusions? Thank you, Mr. Nagbe.
Thank you, Mr. Kamara. I think you're quite right. I'm sure Father Washington believes in what he's saying, but like I said earlier, look, I was in Kakata, I was in Banga, I was in Ganda just last year. And the motorcyclists that I saw in the city, they're almost just as this city as popular with motorcyclists as they are in Monrovia. So I agree with you, Mr. Kamara. I think the policy has to take a holistic approach. It can't just be a piece of Monrovia and then we think we're implementing. But anyway, thank you, gentlemen, for your contribution to this topic tonight. Hopefully the policy makers are listening to us and they will take notes here. We'll move on to our next topic, which is the president's recent trip to the U.S. and the size of his delegation. There's a lot of chatter going on about the size of his delegation. I think we all know initially, I think only 9 names were announced. And then later on, I think 26 names were announced. And then apparently that was even amended again. And I'll be honest with you, I was in Atlanta to meet with the president. And I saw a lot of people who were not on that list. A lot of people I ran into that I know from, back in the day, they were on that trip. So let's talk about this a little bit. Do we think this trip here, do we think there was much transparency that, attended this trip?
Let me nip it for you.
Or do we think, let's talk about that and see what the cost that is associated with such trips out of the country. Yes, Mr. Kamara, you want to go and nip it? Go ahead and nip it in the butt.
Did you see the list of people that the executive mansion put up?
Okay. Did I read the list?
Yeah.
I did. I read list of 9.
Okay. So there were 9 people on that list, right?
Yeah. Yes.
And that's why you should go back. Because everybody else that went did not have to be paid by the national government. The list you see on that executive mansion website, you can trace that list as far as the finance ministry and the Ministry of State for Presidential Affairs. That 9 people that what you will see on our list. So he couldn't stop anybody else from coming, but he was not paying for you. That's simple.
Okay, so your argument is there may have been people on that list who paid their own way to go.
Yes. And some of them were already in America before the president came also.
Okay. Mr. Eastman, That's Mr. Kamara's take. What do you think?
Well, then Mr. Kamara has to defend the government that he supported. I'm not surprised. But here's what I say. Without being privy to the list, I do know that it has been customary that when the chief executive is coming to the U.S., a host of people try to accompany him, and it's expensive. It weighs down our budget. For whatever reason, I don't. Is it necessary that he carries such a large entourage? But again, not being privy to what the list, I can't analyze. But
Well, Jimmy, what the thing is though, as you go ahead, initially there were 9 names announced, and then when the public outcry began to get louder, I think then they increased the public list to 26. And so this is what concerns why wasn't the entire.
You did a correction there? Because people listening to us. It didn't go to 26 because the government increased it, because the Ministry of State increased it. It went to 26 because of pundits and surrogates like Mr. Gilman, who went together and funded and calculated everybody else. The county man's wife, the county man's son, all of those ones had nothing to do with what the
government. Mr. Kamara, this is the official list that was announced by the plenums of this delegation.
Okay, let's see the official list. You the host, put the official list up here.
All right, Mr. When the Jeremic PR will come back to you. Right now, we're talking to Mr. Eastman. Let him make his input. Mr. Eastman, go ahead.
Yeah, it has been customary that we see a host of people accompanying the chief executive on these trips, and we've criticized other administrations that it's definitely not necessary. It's expensive. It's taxing. We have to pay the people per diem. We have to pay their hotel bills. Do we really need it? But here is what I've observed already. There are power brokers in this administration, and we're going to see more of this. I see a power block forming outside of the president's immediate cabinet. And it's going to be, we're going to see it more and more as time goes. If I was the chief executive, I was President Boakai, I will reel this thing in, because they will take more and more power away from him. They will usurp the powers of the president as much as they can if you allow them to. But we'll see. But I see this thing, this is a fissure in this administration that is slowly getting wider. Mm-hmm. And if this is not nipped in the bud, there will be a power struggle in the administration.
Mr. Gilman, Mr. Eastman is he's channeling something here, which we have all seen with the appointments. How we all saw the list being manipulated by these cliques of power blocks in this government. Do you think that something like this may have been responsible for these conflicting numbers that were released on as to the number of people who came on the strip?
Well, here we go again, a man who came to power on transparency and accountability. For us to be here after all of these weeks and still debating how many folks came. In fact, the press secretary name was not even on the list. So if Mr. Kamara telling me that all of these people who need were not on the list, the press secretary came on her own, pay her own way, then I got a land to sell you in Grand Bassa. But this is how it works. And this has been going on because I have pretty close knowledge to this for the past since 2005. The civil servants that work in government that have close contact with the president, most of them, their meager income is supplemented by traveling with the president. Because when you travel with the president, you get your per diem, you get your hotel, you get your meal. And I have hosted a lot of them when I was in New Jersey. When they come to the UGA, they will come, they get their per diem, they get their hotel, they will start with you, they will save a little money, They take that home and they put it either on a special project like my friend used to do on her house and all of that. So coming with the president has privileges, and people do fight. Those who earn the right to come with the president, they come and they get a per diem, which is rightfully theirs, and they supplement their income and they use that for their project, for their homes and all the stuff. Is it right? I think so. These people work with the president, they work with the administration, they work very hard, they make very little. So if there's a means for them to, which is legal now, this is not illegal, this is legal, that the entourage, those who travel with the president, have to have the per diem, the hotel, the meal, and all of that. If they give you that money and you have a cousin that lives right there in New Jersey, in Dallas, somebody that lives in Houston, the nearby area, you start with them, you save the hotel for the time you will be there, you save the meals, you save the per diem, all that. You take it home and do something. That's how it has always been. That's why when the president is traveling, I think one of the former chief of staff used to be, I think, accused of selling slots. You gotta give him something else to for
you mean the former chief of staff in the CDC-led government?
No, I'm talking about going all the way back.
Okay.
Going all the way back because you see, I have a friend by the name of Ethel Holt. Okay, Ethel Holt used to be the private secretary of Ellen Johnson Sirleaf. I didn't say she was doing that, but she educated me as to the battle. Okay, the fight of 200-300 people wanting to go, and maybe only 60 would be picked to go. So the politics and all of that, because this is how they do it. So the way they did it was, well, it's, this group is going to go this time. The next time the president go, another group is going to go. So they can kind of share the benefits. But it was not corruption. It's legally the right of the president to take these people, and they're entitled to those little benefits. I don't see anything wrong with that.
Father Washington, thank you, Jerome. Father Washington, let's pull away a little bit from the composition of the list. Do we have? Are there reasons for us to be optimistic about this trip? Do you think? Do you think we stand to realize any substantial benefit from this trip, considering what we've seen and what we've heard?
Well, I think so. I mean, every exchange of idea, that's always a benefit. I mean, sometimes we look for monetary benefit, but sometimes that's not the goal. But any exchange where people learned and we share things that we don't know, I think that's always a benefit. But what beats my imagination when I hear Gateman talks about the fact that somebody comes to the government and the government gives you per diem to go to a hotel, and then you go and stay with a family member and take that money in your pocket, and he said that is illegal, that is criminal, that is unethical. I work at a place that they pay for my gasoline. If I get on the car with one of my friends to go to that very place I'm supposed to go, I'm not supposed to put in my mileage that I use my vehicle to go there. So if I go and collect money for that place that I did go, I joined a car with my friend to go there, and I say, oh, I went with my friend, but I did go there, so they should pay me for that. That's criminal. So that's everything. There's everything that they preach. That's everything they do. And when you say the government is spending a lot of money for all these trades, but you say that somebody they want to do that, they come to the U.S., the government's supposed to pay. The reason why they pay you for the hotel because you have said that you don't have nowhere to stay. The reason why they are feeding you is because you say you have no food to eat. That's why they're feeding you. So if you go and stay with your friend and go and stay in somebody's hotel, and then later on go and take the money and pocket it for something else, that's criminal. That's unethical. And so for me, there's no way out of this. So you can be preaching one thing and be doing something else. This is not the way to go. So for me, I mean, any exchange that provides education for our people to learn and take back something from that is going to benefit our country, I think that's something that's beneficial for our country.
Thank you, Dr. Pearson. The thing that seems to be a common thread with this government is, the lack of clarity in their communication. Why do they have to leave the outcome of this trip to conjecture? Why can we get, even Samuel Doe will come from these trips and report, fruitful and rewarding. I think those are the big expressions. This trip, the president made a statement, but we're still wondering as to, what this trip really achieved for us. Why do you think this is so? Why is it that this government is seems to suffer so much from communicating anything? Even the president's own assessment of the 100 days achievement, he left a lot unsaid. Why do you think we're having this problem?
Thank you, Victor. The common excuse you gave for such a fail is the fact that people will say the government is just coming into power. People are trying to find the footing. And, and the thing about group dynamics is that when you put a group together, there is something we call in sociology the storming process, and, where people are fighting for their place in the group. And until they can settle in, a lot of things slip through the crack. All right. But, coming to the question, I think I do not have any expectation from Boakai at this time before he won the elections and even after he won. And the reason for that, I believe strongly from my background that if I want to see the potential of a man today, I look at his output in the past. All right. That Boakai, President Boakai have not convinced me by his past that he's able to deliver on leadership. All right. And so when I find the lapses that you're referring to, I'm not surprised because I don't think he can deliver on those deliverables. But on the other hand, I'm concerned because we have, I think right now, if I'm not mistaken, we have about 9 advisors to the president. Either 9 or 8 advisors to the president. And if I'm not mistaken, President Boakai has more advisors than Ellen Johnson had. All right, because I was in Liberia during the time of the Ellen administration, and what frustrates me more is that the lack of foresight. The lack of foresight. Before you go to these meetings, some of the things you want to do is to have a clear-cut understanding as to what you want to get out of the meeting. You're going to the meeting. What is it you want to get out of there? And that will inform how many people you take with you. That will also inform whether you need to go there or not. Now, why did President Boakai attend this meeting, knowing full well that Kamala Harris is not going to be there. Joe Biden is not going to be there. Substantial leadership from Africa, like Kenya's president. What is his name again? Someone help me quickly. It just slipped my mind.
Ruto
is not going to be there. Uganda president is not going to be there. Now, all the top guys who are making great marks in Africa are not even going to. They're sending their deputies. When did you realize that the meeting is going to be a lower level discussion as compared to a top level discussion? Who informing the president on these things? I would have preferred the president stay for the Unification Day program, which is first within his tenure, to unify Liberia after a very divided elections. In a polarized society where Liberians were killed during the electoral period. Liberians are dying in the country right now. The country is split in the middle based on the election. What is more important to Liberia now than a Unification Day message from the President of the Republic of Liberia calling on his people to come together and unite under one camp? He could have sent someone there. Now, just before I leave you, Victor, it was when President Boakai had left the United States and listened to me on the RIA and had nothing to say, that I started to think, who gave the president the pointers in the plane and said, Mr. President, when you get down at the RIA, these are the talking points. Even if the president, sometimes you feel that the president knows all because he's the president, but that's not the truth. The reason why the president has a lot of advisors around because he doesn't know everything. And the president might be based on so many things. He needs people who will give him the point and say, look, Mr. President, when you get down RIA, we know the press is going to come to you. We are already allocating 3 questions from the press. These are the talking points going forward because Liberians are expecting something from you. And then when it comes to who comes to the trip, look, Victor, I was very disappointed. I was one of those who went on social media on my platform and hailed the president for listing only 9 people on the website, on the Executive Mansion website. After I had seen the list of 26 on the Spoon Network, because they get direct information from insiders, 26 people. And then we saw when we tried to raise contention, then the Executive Mansion posted the nine names, and I complimented the president on that. Only to find out that we have numerous people on this conference, that some even had to sit on the ground in the conference hall.
Thank you, Dr. Pearson. Mr. Kamara.
Yeah.
Dr. Pearson, I'm sorry, you were done, correct?
Yeah, I'm good.
Yeah.
I'm good.
Oh, okay, Mr. Kamara. As you come in, it has been reported elsewhere that our president, or the only president was present at this meeting. There was no other sitting president present. 2, it was also being reported that this meeting was really a private affair, that people had to pay to go to these meetings. What can you tell us about, the behind the scenes arrangement for this meeting, and if we, are hopeful of achieving anything out of this meeting?
One time the Pops said something. He said Liberia is a talking society. He said, let them talk, those who are supposed to talk. Let them walk, those who are supposed to work. And who is supposed to work, who will be working, who will be talking to them. And all that planet thing, Dr. Pearson, all kind of stuff. It's okay. But let me tell you something, Mr. Nagbe, the one that's more important to me. Joseph Boakai did not come on an official trip from the United States government. If he did that, he would have been at the White House. Okay? Now let's talk about the 9 and the 26. When Joe Boakai was coming, those who followed him are the ones that are on that list. Remember, the commerce minister was already in America. They were not in the president's entourage. The minister of finance delegation were already in America. They were not in the president's entourage. You can list on and on and on. The president has said to you officially, I'm taking 9 people. If you say anyhow, you not agree with what the president put up, but the document from Spoon is why you prefer to believe that I can't help you. But what we do know was the meeting was not some kind of meeting, some kind of World Bank meeting or IMF meeting where you went to collect money and come back. That meeting was for acquaintance. That meeting was to make new contacts. It's not necessarily by president or for president. If somebody was asking for my opinion before Joe Boakai went to that meeting, I personally would have said, I think you should send somebody else. Remember, the agriculture minister was already here. The whole 26 you're looking at, that 26, all the people that just named to you, they're on that 26 that you got. And that 26 were not the president of future delegation. That's what I want you to understand. Most of the people were met here, and some of them were direct family members that he personally paid for. But the one that came from the government is 9. And that's why you should go back. Go back to the Executive Mansion website. People that appears in there, give me there, they will talk. That's what they're supposed to do. And about Uncle Jose, let them do the talking.
All right, gentlemen, thank you very much. Before we put this topic to rest, let's do it round robin. Let's talk a little bit about the messaging by this administration. I'm really concerned. I mean, like I said, the president, I met with him and he spoke with us for maybe 20-25 minutes with no paper. And then he went to the bigger meeting and he did the same thing. So yes, I think he has his wits about him, but I think sometimes it helps if you have a little something written on paper to guide you, because I think they're faltering on their messaging. For instance, we haven't really heard much from this trip. I think if we had some, even if the president say, if they have put a little re-out on this trip, maybe we wouldn't be here sitting and wondering as to what came out of this trip. So why don't we take a minute each and just talk about the messaging here from this government, by this government. Let's start with Father Washington.
Well, I don't know where you talk about messages in because when I listened to the conversation that was held and some of the interactions and
So, in other words, you believe that all has been said that needed to be said about this trip.
well, I mean, from what I heard and some of the things that I thought they were targeting, like for example, trying to partner with other university and trying to make sure that Liberia, some of the institutions that Liberia were aligned to, and because of some reason things just fell apart, they needed to re-strengthen this relationship. That's something they had come to the United States to do, and I think that's something they were fostering, and that's the kind of message I was getting. That hey, we are back and we want to work with you, and we have that's integrity that people you can work with, and we can want to promise you that what had happened in the past will not happen again. And that's the kind of message I was getting. That hey, we're on the right path. We want to work with you. We don't want a situation where we start working with you and something happens and we cannot strengthen that relationship. That's why we're here. So something we have started in the past, it's something just happened and nothing is working again. We want to start our relationship and want this to happen. That's the kind of message I'm getting, which I think is a positive message.
Thank you, Jimmy. Father Washington doesn't think this government has a messaging problem. Do we think this government has a messaging problem? Communication, basically.
I wouldn't just say it's a messaging problem, because part of implementing a system, part of implementing change, part of a rescue exercises requires communication. So that is just one facet of what is required. I honestly believe that this administration should get more professionals in a more professional approach in everything they do. I listened to the president made one thing, and it was alarming. He said, y'all who in the diaspora, y'all may be retired, but you're not tired. We would like to see you come back. I think the president recognized the need for expertise in Liberia. And I support him for that, because really it's not that our people are incapable, but they haven't been groomed. They haven't had anybody to show them how to develop the skills they already have. And that's all I see is missing. So we need they need to be as professional. They need to set an example so that the people, the youth behind them, those who they are training, the new ministers, the new assistant ministers, new directors, will be able to learn from them and develop the kind of skills they need. That has been missing for a while now. But we need to groom the subsequent generations that will follow us.
Right.
So I think that is so. A professional post is required by this administration just for our posterity.
Thank you, Jimmy. Jerome, even here in the States, when the Obamacare, which has become so popular, right? When it was being rolled out, and there were bumps and hitches in the road, they had to bring in Bill Clinton, who they called the explainer in chief. And Bill Clinton had to come and simplify this whole thing, and behold and lo, the whole thing picked up. Do you think this government needs a Bill Clinton type of explainer? Is that thing as much as we continue to come here and say they haven't done this and that, there are some little things that they're doing. Are they communicating their achievements properly, you think, efficiently?
To be honest with you, to give a message, you have to have a message. This government has no message to give. When you visit the Kennedy Center, you visit all of the presidential libraries, they have sections for presidential papers. That's notes, speeches, things that are cataloged. I think you just said it. The president went to an important meeting, and he spoke from the top of his head, nothing in writing. There's nothing that is palpable, nothing tangible that you can say, this is the presidential paper presented at this summit. He met with Liberians in Atlanta for the amount of time you talk about. You say he stood there and he spoke from the top of his head. There's nothing you can hold him to. He has no message. The problem here is this is unprofessional. You and I know from UPP days, everywhere back of my view, or you yourself went, even to a high school graduation. If you went to speak to elementary school, you have a little speech that you write, and it's part of your portfolio for posterity's sake. If Nagbe is no longer around, his children can say on 2024 when he met with Joseph Boakai, this is what he said. Joseph Boakai has no message. So it doesn't matter who you have there to be explainer-in-chief. An explainer-in-chief has to explain something. Joseph Boakai has none so far. This is why we see the disorganization, the disconnect everywhere. What is the policy here? Is it arrest? If it's arrest, what's the message on agriculture, on sanitation, on roads, on electricity? All these things that they talk about in the campaign. What happened to that? That was a good message. Because it was messaged, anybody who has said it, you could recite it everywhere you go. It's arrest, arrest.
Right.
Now that the road, this is where the rubber meets the road in policy now. We are going from a speech to not implementation and policy. It is non-existent. Joseph Boakai cannot talk from the top of his head everywhere he go for us to take him seriously. He has no message. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Aliyu.
Yes, sir.
Listen, the president came and briefed us, but one would have expected that by now, Kula Fofana would have mounted the podium and explained to us in much detail what this president accomplished. I don't think we've seen that yet. Here we see, yes, the president may not have taken a private jet, so he may not have had a plane exclusively to himself. But usually the president will brief the journalists on the plane or whatever and give them some pointers. Like Jerome is saying, talking points. FOL was at the meeting in Atlanta. I ran into Dennis. I don't think they even talked to Dennis. I know some other people from other networks were there. Jerome believes this is only because this government has nothing to communicate. What do you think? What's your say?
You know, I see how much love you have for Jerome. If you really want me to spend my time responding to Jerome stuff, he said, but anyway, let me just.
No, I'm trying to give you an opportunity now to sell this government's message. That's what I'm
no, the government's already sold. You see, the government is already in power. It is what it is. This is a government, internationally recognized and respected government. We are getting there. Listen, you talk about Kula supposed to. I don't think you listened to Kula today. Did you listen to Kula today or yesterday?
I didn't know she spoke today. She said that, okay. Yeah, then that's good. I didn't know she did.
Okay. So there are lots of things that are happening in the country. I think sometimes we should try to click on that notification button on some of the local radio stations in the country and not have to wait until Spoon comes on. Because it's a different ball game with him, getting them long range. Even if you listen to Spoon local radio station before the Spoon Talk, the information, the way it's similar, is different from what is on Spoon Talk. Now, I'm not saying Spoon Talk is giving wrong information, but I'm saying Spoon Talk is a sensational show. That's what it's about. If that's the only place you wait for information, you may not get the information in detail because the actors are in the very radio stations. That's where you need to put most of your focus. But what Mr. Gilmer is saying, we already know Mr. Gilmer's problem. He has never recovered. His fellow was beaten. And so he's never going to recover. Mr. Gilmer is going to push this government until the entire 6 years is over. He doesn't have to be rational. He doesn't have to be logical. He doesn't have to be right. It's just like putting sand in a garage, period. That's what Mr. Gilmer is all for. So listen, this government will succeed. There are serious issues that we're all concerned about. We are concerned about some of their approaches and some of these lame duck things they do, some of these premature mistakes that they make. We see all of these things. The president he been saying this thing privately, but for some reason it came out in America. Most of these guys are on probation. Joseph Boakai is not the type to talk. If you have studied Joseph Boakai, or if you have not studied Joseph Boakai, ask Benina Ure. If you not understand Joseph Boakai by now, ask Henry Costa. If you not understood Joseph Boakai by now, ask John Molu. You need to look at Joseph Boakai by his action. If you're always waiting for words from Joseph Boakai's mouth, focus on what he does. Follow his trend. Just follow his roadmap from the 70s up to now. He's not the guy all over the radio, all over. That's not who he is. Watch his action. Wait for July or August. And after that, if you don't see Joseph Boakai real side showing in the government, don't trust me.
Okay. So I told to wait for 100 days. 100 days have come and passed. Now we're waiting.
No, 100 days that's deliverable. 100 days that's deliverable. Now we're talking about probation employees.
Yeah, right.
Okay. All right. Our producers in the background, take us to a little brief commercial break. Producers, if you're there, let's take a minute or so. As we get ready for the,
you're begging for a job. You're begging Joseph Boakai for a job the other day. Eh?
Who was?
Dennis? Yeah.
Okay. While we wait for
the superintendent.
Hello and welcome to Focus on Liberia. For education, information, culture, entertainment, and overall wide variety of programs, tune in to Focus on Liberia, the best in Liberian diaspora television. We are focused on Liberia, from Patawi Falls to the Blue Lake of Bombay, from the Bella Forest in Bapolu to the Atlantic coastline in Buchanan, from Lake Piso in Cape Mount to the Putu and Tiempo mountain ranges of Ground Jide, from River Noah in Grand Cru County to Foya in Lofa, from the Firestone rubber plantation in Habel to the Port of Harper in Maryland, from Providence Island in Monrovia to Sacrepie in Nimba, from Sister City in Riverside to the Kilipo Range in River G, from the Gola Forest in northwest Liberia to the valleys of Jiripo in Sino County. We are focused on Liberia.
Okay, welcome back, debaters, and welcome back, viewers. Tonight, we have in studio Dr. Clarence Pearson, Father Elijah Washington, Mr. Jimmy Eastman, Mr. Jerome Gaiman, and Mr. Aliu Kamara, and sitting in tonight for the best interviewer since 1847. Mr. Dennis Gar is J. Victor Nagbe moderating tonight. All right, gentlemen. Unfortunately, we don't have a lady among us. Hopefully, on the next show we'll have one. Let's move on to our next topic. And this
Victor, I didn't comment on that last point you're contributing to us.
I thought you did. My bad. Okay, then please do before we move on, Doctor.
Yeah, I just want to clarify something. You know, when Kamara said that. President Boakai said that Liberia is a talking society. Reminds me when Ellen Johnson Sirleaf said noisy minority. And when she made that remark, we're at the University of Liberia at the time, and the students were agitating that tuition was being hiked. And then the guys left the campus and they went to the Ministry of Foreign Affairs to call the president's attention to the situation, and we ran out of that area in front of the Ministry of Foreign Affairs at the time. I was in the graduate program, and went back in the fence, and then she used that expression noisy minority, but she came back to she took that back for a fact that she realized that public opinion matters. All right, and the communication has been a problem for our government in Liberia. It was a problem for the we administration as well now as it is for the the Joe Boakai administration. Now, take into consideration the Ministry of Foreign Affairs, the Ministry of Information, rather, the Ministry of Information has always complained that they are not fed the requisite information, the data that they need to communicate to the public on. And then now we having this conflict that we try to adapt the U.S. system. We want to have the Ministry of Foreign Affairs and want to have press secretary to the president. Everybody speaking to the public at the same time. And as we speak, there is still a challenge to balance out those responsibilities. I'm not saying it's a bad thing, but there's a challenge to balance it out, even with the presence of the ELBC. All right, the state broadcasting system. And I say this to say that, look, Liberia needs leadership. I will keep saying this. We need leadership. If you look at even the United States here, when people in government communicate, they speak the mind of the president's current policy, and they speak the mind of the president's current approach in terms of what the government is achieving. You go to Liberia, people get up and they speak what they want to say out of sentiments. They make policy on the fly. They make policy statement on the fly. And then, like we've seen with the police. And, and people tell us, we're just trying to be critical. We don't want to, we don't want to help. We don't want the government to succeed. But we are complaining and we are pointing out these things because they are the facts. Look at the asset recovery team. When the president first listed the asset recovery team, some of us got up and said, listen, that's not the right step to take because you need professional people to do that kind of work. And not only that, you need to divorce it from politics. The same thing with the appointments in government. My friend Kula Fofana put a statement one time and said, this other list supersede the previous list for the same agency and names that were called positions that were appointed. And I'm like, no, you can't do that. Yeah. You can appoint, you can recall, and you can reappoint. You cannot say the other list after 3 weeks will supersede that list that I sent out the last, and you don't even reference which list you're talking about. So communication is a problem. I think if the better we can identify these challenges and bring in professionals, my brother, Victor, people go to school to learn communication. They got communication analysts who can come and give you a complete blueprint of what your communication strategy can be for your government going for the next 6 years. And you'll be successful in your communication. The president should never walk up to the camera and be lost for words that we saw at the RIA the other day. They ask him, so the Liberian people expecting to hear from you, what did you bring from America? He said, we went there for a meeting. And we went, and he didn't say anything that he brought back. They said, so what's up with you came with commercial flight? The people wondering why they didn't come with private jet. He couldn't give any answer. He said, when they gave me free ride, we'll take it. These are not quality communication coming from our leadership in Liberia, and it's worrisome, to be very frank. We need to do better, I think.
Thank you, Dr. Pearson. Debaters, we're moving on to our last topic. Before we do so, I can't help but relish in the success of my Phillies. To the chagrin of Jimmy Eastman, we blanked your Nationals tonight. Jerome Gaiman, we blanked your Marlins a few days ago. We are hot. Anyway, ladies and gentlemen,
remember, you always start like that until September comes around. Then, like the Eagle, you went on 10-0, and then you want not even making the playoffs. So go ahead, continue.
Hey, it's a different season, okay? We have short memory. We don't remember last season.
I thought y'all played Chicago tonight. I thought y'all played the Cubs.
No, they're talking about
I know we play the Nationals tonight.
That's right.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, there seems to be a spat developing between the Minister of Labor and the Civil Service Director. There are reports that nepotism seems to be, creeping into the ministry. I read today, I think it's on Front Page Africa, where I think the president himself, I guess, in an attempt to placate the MDRO, may have hired 9 ministers in the one ministry. 9 ministers, assistant deputies. And then I read, I didn't even know Prince Johnson has a daughters. I think 2 of them. I think one works in the ministry as a deputy, the other is a director somewhere. Then I read the Minister of Labor actually wrote the civil service to hire 2 people into the civil service. I mean, what is going on? The reports are that the entire ministry is being taken over by NIMBA. And this is no disrespect to NIMBA For full disclosure, my in-laws, my wife is from Nimba. I'm friends with Nimba, but still, nepotism anywhere, I think, is hurtful. Let's talk about this. Is nepotism creeping up into this government, especially at the Ministry of Labor? Jerome, you can kick us off.
Well, when we started talking about why the government was very slow, as we speak, the government is not fully formed. I think Mr. Kamara and the defender of the president said you have to remember.
Just a second, Jerome. Mr. Kamara, can you adjust your camera just a little bit?
Okay, let me put it far away again.
Yeah, all right. You can go ahead. Why you do that? Go ahead.
Why are you doing it? We'll take you off here because we don't have time for that kind of thing.
I know you've been struggling to come back on.
Mr. Kamara and the defender of the government said the reason that the government is taking this long in its formation is because we were a coalition of different political parties. We're coming together and everybody has their part to play. So Nimba County basically have taken the Ministry of Labor. They have made that based on what we read with the documentation that I saw from Leonard Dudu. It shows that we are talking about a fiefdom, a country, an administration within an administration. How can one minister hire 94 people? 94, all from Nimba County.
And this is in the face of the pronouncement on hiring freeze, Jerome.
That's correct. The president had a proclamation. In fact, it was an executive order that there was a freeze on employment and all of these things. So this is what we are talking about. They say one thing and they do something else, or everybody else is in charge. This man, Mr. Kruel, whatever they pronounce that name, he was
Cooper Crown.
Cooper Crow.
Councilor Cooper
Yeah,
Crow.
this is a man who was supposed to be going to justice. And the good graces of the Liberian people kicked against that. And they took him and sent him over to labor. And not only did he hire 94 people because there were no openings. So what happened to the 94 other folks that were already there? So now he has run into a problem with the guy from CSA, Mr. Joker, Jeremiah Joker.
Josiah Joker.
Josiah Joker, who is now running the whole shebang when it comes to hiring policy and all. And he's doing the best he can to put policies in place to straighten out some of the things. And they don't pay him any mind. In fact, he said they never even consulted him. This guy just went and hired folks. If you look at the list, the whole MDR, Prince Johnson, it looks like they're trying to appease Prince Johnson. So they hire all his relatives. I think he got 2 or 3 daughters or nephew. Everybody from Prince Johnson was actually hired there. And it goes on and on. And the entire ministry now is, I call it the Ministry of Nimba County. And it's terrible. Where are we headed, Mr. I have heard of a nepotism, but I've never seen it this way. This one, I don't even know this is criminal in nature. That's all I can say.
Thank you, Mr. Kim. Jimmy, you had spoken earlier about the apparent emergence of power blocks in this government. And it looks as though this president has a serious problem on his hands. I mean, even though he has announced a freeze on hiring, but it looks like Councilor Crow, who we all know represents the MDR in this government, we all know the role the MDR played in helping to get this president elected. But it looks like the MDR, especially Councilor Crow, has gone off the reservation, and looks like he's doing his own thing. What do you think is going on here?
I haven't corroborated the story, but there's something appear that sticks out at me just for the fact that a minister is alleged to have hired 94 people or so many people. How can that possibly happen when everyone requires a personal action that has to be approved by the civil service agency? How can one bypass all of that and do it? Something's not working in the country.
Right.
And it's not the first time we've seen this. We've heard in the past that the past administration had so many different people on the payroll. I think Liberians have to look at putting people on government salaries as a solution is not a solution. By simply giving people a job that they have no job. In other words, you give them a title or position, but they actually have no work to do. That deprive that person of becoming productive somewhere else. That is a burden on government revenue, very limited resources. Now you're spending resources and getting no productivity out of it. I think there's a concept that each and every administration is going with. Will help people by giving them jobs, and this shows the fickleness, the weakness of these administrations to actually provide a viable solution for the Liberian people. Giving people jobs is not a way of out. Making people productive in society is. And we need to get away from just hiring people on government jobs to do nothing. It is a failure on our part. And if we are perpetuating this administration after administration, and then we claim, so this just goes to show you that when politicians claim they can do this, they can do that, and they repeat the mistakes of the past, it clearly shows that they don't have the solutions. Liberians need to wake up and find people that actually have solutions for their plight, because our direction has not improved over all these years. It has not improved, and it will not improve because we're doing the same thing other administrations have done, and yet we claim we are rescue or we have the solution to Liberian problems. I think it's terrible on several fronts.
Thank you, Jimmy. Father Washington, do you think this government, this president is worried about a fractured or the possibility of a fractured coalition? I mean, we see in the press it's being reported that NPP and the PDPO, I think LXTAL or whatever. But apparently, some of these parties are now leaving the CDC coalition, and because they feel they were not giving the opportunity to be heard at the table. Do you think this government is worrying that the MDR may be thinking likewise? And that's why they give them such free reign. I mean, obviously, it seems that the labor minister really seems to be doing a whole lot over there. In spite of the freeze on hiring. Yeah, I heard the argument some of the people are being moved laterally and all of that, but it appears that there are fresh hires going on at the Ministry of Labor. What do you think?
Well, it's interesting, but I must first say that I read the Front Page Africa, and I think that's a bogus article that was written back in
But it was not a question mark, though, which I didn't seem to be an affirmative.
Listen, I'm also a journalist. I'm a journalist by profession, so when I read a story written by a journalist and I know it's a bogus story, I just know. And the reason why I'm saying, because in our story, the first thing we need to establish is that what is nepotism? Nepotism is the act of granting the privilege to an advantage position to somebody who is a relative. That's the first thing. That's nepotism. So in any way I see the minister done that, that's the first thing. So,
but in this country, Father, as you go on, a gribble man versus a lawman man, all the gribbles become my relatives, and all the lawman people.
That's
so
not,
in that sense, that's nepotism. You don't have to be my immediate relative.
That's the first thing. That's not nepotism. The second thing is that what I say is a bogus story is that, according to the story, it say they have learned that he is planning to hire. That's the story. He is planning to hire. He has come to our attention that we are planning to hire.
No, Father Washington.
You didn't read the story.
No,
That story was not speculative.
Listen, can I just? I'm reading. I'm quoting directly from Homepage Africa.
I pull the story. Pull it up.
Listen, yeah. I'll read directly from there. Minister, it has been brought to our attention that you are planning to massively employ 94 individuals.
No. That is a letter from Joker to him.
Civil service, yeah.
Saying that. That's what you have heard.
No, let's see. I think you see, for you to say, because the gentleman that wrote the story, okay, I know them very, very. I know the group very, very well. So, they are not fly-by-night journalists. They wrote the story. Not only did they write the story, but they gave names of people that can be verified or debunked. They gave names.
I'm just quoting from the newspaper. Can you listen?
No, but you're not quoting it right, because when you quote it, you should say,
right,
this is what Joker said to the minister.
Let Father Washington learn, and then you will come in after Dr. Pierce and Jerome. You will come in after.
If Joker said what the journalist were told him, is it not the same thing? Is he not quoting what the journalist said to him? No. And it's not what he heard. It's not what was reported to him. That's what he's quoting in writing to the minister. That we have learned that you are planning to hire, and you are now saying he has hired. And that's a big difference. And that's why I said that's the problem. One person is saying that you say he has hired. He said he has not hired, and you are saying he has hired. And the GSA the GSA, the director is saying that we have heard that you're intending to do this. So what is the story? Until he has hired, and you have seen the letter that he has hired people, then you can act. But to say we have heard or we've learned that you have a plan to do this, and he hasn't done it, there's no record to show that he has. Then what is the question? What is the point?
Thank you, Father Washington. Dr. Pearson, the same story that we are referencing indicated, in spite of the freeze that has been announced by the government, the same story in that story is reported that the Minister of Labor had actually recommended 2 people to the civil service on a political party letterhead to be employed by the civil service. And again, this seems to go counter to the pronouncement of a freeze on new hires in government. What do you say?
I just want to clarify for our audience, when some of us are critical and we are raising these issues, it's not because we want the government to fail. In fact, contrary to that view, in governance, it is believed that your critics helps you to succeed. And I say that to say that when you see what is happening at the Ministry of Labor with Cooper Crab is reflective of President Joseph Boakai himself. President Joseph Boakai is not providing leadership, because if you recall, civil service is currently commissioned for a payroll audit, and the President Boakai's administration is on record for saying that they are going to clean up the payroll so that they will give themselves a fresh start without being burdened. And when it comes to the employment of the government, now we see them going back to make the same old mistake that CDC made when CDC took over in 2018. They flawed the entire system with CDCians, and then we cry about it, we criticize it. Now Joseph Boakai have gotten there. Now this Joseph Boakai who came to say he will weed out the leakages in government so as to save on revenue, like that Mr. Eastman acknowledged prior. So now we see the same thing. We see Joseph Boakai appointing minister proper for the same role, deputy minister for the same role, assistant minister for the same role, and director general for the same role. And then other people are going to sit in the very office, and everybody's going to be doing the same job. Who's going to do what? No wonder why the minister said in the club in the drink all day while other people sitting and waiting for another person to get a job done. Nobody getting the job done. Meanwhile, government of Liberia paying money, and may not even be able to meet payroll at the end of the month because the payroll is bloated. All right. So I'm not surprised when Cooper Cry is doing that. And look, Father, let me be honest with you. Ethnicity and ethnic politics is dangerous for Liberia. The Samuel Doe regime, one of the reasons why President Samuel Doe regime failed is because they believed that the Crown ethnic group dominated the governance of the country at some point in time. And so because they felt that the Crown ethnic group was dominating the government at a certain point in time, people became disgruntled about that. And then I remember I was much younger at the time. Even in our neighborhood, I was living on the ethnic border at the time, you couldn't even argue with a Crown man. All right, because they felt they were more powerful than any other people in it. So how can you have a whole ministry being flooded by MDR partisans because Prince Johnson is adamant about having his partisans rewarded because they made Joseph Boakai president? You know, it's worrisome. I'm not saying the story is 100% factual, but in Liberia, say where you see smoke, fire is there. And I don't think veteran journalists will put the image and the reputation on the line because they want to make up and fabricate stories. These are the same people who announced to us before it happened sanctions officials.
Thank you, Dr. Pearson. Mr. Kamara, welcome back. And you were coming right after Mr. Gaiman. Mr. Gaiman, you were going to make some clarification as you come in to do so. Let's assume that Father Washington is even correct that the reporting is that he's planning on hiring. Doesn't that still fly in the face of the freeze that has been imposed by this government?
For the first time, I have to disagree with Father Washington, because when people are writing and they do not source the information, then it's suspect. But let me read here. It says somebody naming the minister, Mr. Zaw Jr., Assistant Minister for Labor Standards, Mr. Rufus T. Saley, Assistant Minister for Trade Union Affairs, Mr. Rufus Kolako Freeman, Assistant Minister for Administration, Ralph E. Donokolo, Assistant Minister for Alien Registration, along with Deputy Minister for Administration Otello P. Mansour, and Minister Croix. Senator Johnson's other daughter is also Director of Procurement. So it went on and on and on. And then we are talking about name. In fact, they said he even created a position that doesn't even exist in government. Okay? Which is a Deputy Inspector General for Administration within his ministry, a position that doesn't exist, never existed anywhere. So for us to say that the story is bogus because Josiah Joker tried to be as politically correct as he can be, seeing that this man had written him. Can you imagine this man wrote Josiah Joker to hire X amount of people instead of the other way? They have not been vetted. They have not been proven whether the position actually exists, whether there were a vacancy. None of that. He just told the man that I want you to hire these people. And the man said, this is not how it works. So there's nothing bogus about this. When you have an article where the name, places, date, and time, and position, and all of these, there's no way these are things that can be verified. Can you go there and all of these ministers are not there? These are ministers that are within the ministry already. Thank you very much.
Can I provide?
Thank you, Mr. Kamara.
Yeah, 1 minute clarification.
Okay, all right, Mr. Kamara, please hang on for a second. Go ahead, Father Watson.
There are two words that are very important from the article, and based on these two words that I made a session. One, hired. Two, nepotism. And based on the two words that I said what I said, and I want to stick with what I said, that he did not hire, and there was no nepotism. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Kamara, you were in out, and so I'm not sure how much of this you listened to, but
I know the whole thing.
You did. Okay. What do you think? Do you think there should be reason for concern at the Ministry of Labor based on the employment practices that have been reported from there?
Being a part of Focus on Liberia, on behalf of Focus on Liberia, I want to apologize to the audience.
Who are you to speak on
for the kind, I gotta be careful. But the kind of thing that have been displayed here tonight is shameful, it is embarrassing, and it's appalling. See, this is why I gave my son the option after high school to decide whether he want to go to college or whether he want to be a handyman. I gave him the option to choose one. It is clear. The college degree not helping us. Can you imagine?
It sure didn't help you out.
Okay, I'm lost, but go ahead. Let's see where this is headed.
I'm with the kind of analysis I'm hearing. You see, it's not normal for me to be quiet, right? Because you guys totally locked me down in the kind of debate. A CSA Director General is writing to a minister asking him that he heard, which he should not even have done. That's unethical. The way the process works is if the minister employs someone, the information of that person go to HR, the minister writes a letter with the ministry letterhead and send to the CSA. These are following people that have been employed with our agency so that the CSA can get them registered in the system. None of those happened. Why didn't he wait for the letter? That's one. Mr. Gibbon, you're really assisting minister, deputy minister. Do you not know that those are presidential appointments that minister do not appoint assistant minister? You and your brother, Dr. PSC?
No, but it has been reported that these were
No,
hired.
no, no. I'm answering the question.
On the recommendation now.
No. You're speaking big word. I said recommendation. You people are pushing.
Kamara, one minute. When I spoke about those titles, I said it derived from the head himself who were appointed to those positions. That's what I said.
No, you went straight after Joe Boakai without any facts, no real information.
I'm telling you the map. I'm telling you the misdirection that is coming from his appointees is as a result of the misdirection that he has provided from the top.
Right.
But on what grounds you came up with that explanation? On what ground? They say? But anyway.
No, but he just said there is a recommendation from the minister written on the letterhead.
No. Recommendation was not said here. Recommendation was not said here. Government was emphatic. In fact, it looked like this is a talking point that you really enjoyed that you wanted to dig into. That he boldly reading with no shame on his face, reading that this minister would have signed, they would appoint a deputy minister, Mr. Gilman, man. Look, listen. So there were no. Let me land now. You're doing it here. Let me land.
Point of correction here. You are saying okay that let me read this to you so you can fathom it. It says here in the communication from the CSA that there has been no such approval from the government for the creation of a deputy inspector general. It's a new position that he created.
Deputy inspector general. First of all, that we talk about. I'll tell about deputy minister, assistant minister, all the other people listed. But besides, even if there was a position created that someone is a deputy, whatever, the minister is obliged by law. He's a counselor to send those names to the CSA. The CSA should have waited. Let me make my point.
No position.
Let me make my point. Let me make my point.
Wouldn't that be
you guys without letting me make my point? You're embarrassing yourselves tonight with this argument. If there was a new position created, the civil service must get that employee name, that employee title, including the employee pay. If it has not gone to the CSA, that person is not employed. The CSA Director General has no business. Let me land now.
The CSA has a letter
that way you take opposition bringing holes is a problem. Let me land my point. You guys, no, you were doing so good, Nagbe. I wanted to get you cool aid. And then you go John Gibbon.
I don't want it.
Can you imagine?
He wanted take it a cruise.
So there was no appointment made by the minister because it would not happen if it doesn't reach to the CSK. Let's not waste our time on this.
Listen,
but I gotta say this. As we come to our final closing in Atlanta again. The president, he did say, "Look, I'm sure if Mr. Jai is listening here, he will bear me out." He said, for instance, in Sino, there are 129 townships. He had to appoint the mayor and commissioner. All of this. So what he said was, what he said was, I don't know all these people I'm appointing, but I'm giving them the chance. But trust me, pretty soon there will be a cleanup. He did say that. So that made me to understand most of these recommendations. He's of course they're coalition in this government. So these
I
recommendations.
want you to host without being political. Just host. You're doing good, man, but you're spoiling it now.
I know I'm still doing great. Thank you for your commendation. I appreciate it. All right, debaters, thank you very much. You've done great tonight. Let's do our final closing. As we do so, let's reflect on the accomplishments or lack of this government. Do we think that they are making gradual progress? Do we see change happening, or are we done? Please take not more than 2 minutes, and we'll begin with Father Washington, and then we'll go to Mr. Eastman, Dr. Pearson, Mr. Gaiman, and Mr. Kamara in that order.
For me, it's a pretty difficult question to see whether they're making any progress. Because if I want to talk about progress, I want to see progress in terms of policy, progress in terms of something that is tangible. There are people who still complain that the bag of rice is expensive, gasoline is expensive. So these are things that I would think that would be making progress. But when I listen to some of the, I usually watch my YouTube videos about the, motorbikes rather who go to those places that they are doing. They are great. They are great in the roads. I see people a lot of excitement from people that now that they can drive on their roads in the season and they can come from a farm. So that's something that people are happy about, and I think that's something good. So, well, progress, yeah, maybe minimum, some sign, but other things people are still complaining. So it's difficult to say, but I just still want to wait and see how far they go. But yeah, I wouldn't see as progress, but I would see that I can see a step in the right direction.
Thank you, Father Washington.
You definitely, Father Washington.
Yeah, I said thank you, Father Washington. And let you just said I was doing a great job. Are you going to let me moderate? Or
No, go ahead, sir.
Thank you. Jimmy, now listen to Alio, man. Jimmy, do we think that change is happening or not yet? Or maybe?
Okay. I think we have to be honest with ourselves. I don't care your political affiliation, who you supported. Let's be honest as Liberians. Okay, let's be honest. First of all, we cannot set the bar low. Some little road fixing is progress. No, we need something that was sustainable. When we see an administration established,
and that's $22 million though.
Yeah, we see an administration establish a system of policy or entity that is sustainable, that generations to come will be able to benefit from it. Then I said we're making progress. So I wouldn't condemn and say they're not doing anything, but I look at things from a professional, and you doing something superficial is not enough to convince me you're doing anything. We've seen this show before. I've seen people say they're going to start in Liberia. They say they're going to start 5G, not realizing we don't even have 4G. And as a professional, when I get, I think that I know you don't know what you're talking about. We need to see much more than we're doing. They have the capability. I know a lot of some of the people that are in that group. Some of them are professionals, but I'm not sure if they have the leadership they need or the support they need to implement the things. There's only one place I see making progress, and that is, believe it or not, water and sewer. The person you see, Mo Ali, who's the water and sewer, is a professional. That's his area. He's a professional. So he knows exactly what to do. So I'm not surprised that water and sewer make progress. That is why I emphasize we have to put people who have the requisite expertise in the positions so we can see progress. Otherwise, we're not. So if anybody I see water and sewer, they are being very comprehensive. The whole way they're going about to bring improve the water situation is going to be sustainable. And that is what I would like to see throughout the administration.
Thank you, Mr. Eastman. Dr. Pearson, change happening? No change yet? Maybe.
Well, I think Kamara is going to start getting annoyed with me like he is with Mr. Gaiman. But quite frankly, there is no output, there's no outcome, there's no output at any level shown by this government. I would just say maybe they would get away with it for now because they just got into power. Like I said earlier, they're trying to get their footing. All right, but I'm not impressed. I don't see vision, even though we have the RICS agenda, but I don't see vision. Like you mentioned earlier, the president goes about and go around, but we are not hearing any output as to in regards to the rest agenda that they are achieving. I know the Minister of Agriculture, he's doing a very good job. I think he's coming up with 3 different plans, strategic plans for the Ministry of Agriculture going forward. And I try to encourage more Ali to do the same for Liberian Water and Civil instead of going around cutting people pipes and stopping their drainages. And I don't see vision from President Boakai, no direction. I don't see any control from President Boakai, no structure. And I don't see any accountability from President Boakai, no productivity. I think if they will be successful, President Boakai needs to give direction so that corporate crowd will not be doing what they feel like doing. RG will not jump up one day and say there's a new policy in play now. Nobody should get on the road after 2 weeks from now without factoring the economic impact on the society, the logistical impact on the government. And I don't see no structure. Communication is poor, like you mentioned earlier. And I don't see accountability. Up to now, government officials have not even declared the assets. President Boakai, who come on the mantra of transparency, have not even made his asset public. All right. And so I think there's a lot to be done. They're just in power, so we cut them some slack, but nothing has been done so far.
But I see, Dr. Pearson, I got one quick question. They say that you were supporting one part. Who were you supporting before the election? I hear the people are making comment here. Well, who are you supporting?
I went to Liberia and I registered and I went back and voted for Alex Cummings.
Oh, okay.
Smart man, Jimmy.
Yeah,
smart man. All right, Mr. Gaiman. Asset recovery, work around court, do we see change happening? No change, maybe.
Well, as a sociologist, I like to have landmark. I like to talk statistics. I love to quote because everything we do in social stats, you have to have a source. You got to quote. You can't just talk from the top of your head like you say Boakai did, because tomorrow you ask him, he will forget. He doesn't know. Let me tell you what the man said here. I mean, the president that came in as a law and order, first of all, violated the Constitution. He didn't declare his asset for weeks. And then he said he was going to declare and publish. He didn't do that. And he said, when I get into power, everybody that I appoint will be people of integrity. They will all declare their assets according to the law before they even take office. Today, Joseph Boakai violated our law, and because he did, everybody else in the administration has done so. Nobody has declared their asset. That's one. The asset recovery, they picked somebody who they say he was a lawyer. And look, it was a complete debacle. And not only that, but that they went and started removing tenure people. Law that Joseph Boakai created when he was vice president and supervised as president of the Senate. He came back and violated that. When the Supreme Court gave him a black eye, he said in public, I accept the ruling of the Supreme Court. Then he turned around and circumvented the Supreme Court. These are all laws, our constitution. If this man was in the Western country, he would have been impeached and removed by now. Now, let me go to this other one that just happened. Mr. Joker wrote, he says, his letter dated the 5th of this month says, to inform Mr. Kruger that his decision to transfer and reassign employees of his institution was in violation of what? Chapter 3 and 4 of the Civil Service Standing Act Order of 2012. The man is quoting facts. He's quoting the law, the statute. There's no way you can debunk. You cannot say he doesn't know what he's doing here. These people have come in. They have now segmented the country. Every ministry now look at either belong to a tribe or a county. So if you have all of these people, and the professional folks are telling you, you are in violation, not only in violation, but let me direct you to the code of conduct or the law that you have violated. And Joker said you are violating chapter 3 and 4 of the Civil Service Standard. That's a violation. And then we sit here and say, you know too much book and you're reciting. But until we can still, if we make these laws, the reason we make laws is to follow them. If we only write these laws or these ordinances and these statutes, and it means absolutely nothing, then why are we making laws? And the president is the chief enforcer. People want to say here that the president can be everywhere. He is the commander-in-chief. He is the CEO. All departments that honor him. His oversight responsibility is being neglected. This president has done absolutely nothing right. Joseph Boakai came from the 40s, 50s, 60s, and 70s. He is an animal of his. I don't
really know what to say.
He is a man of his upbringing during the Tottenham era. This is how they did things. They were strong men. You don't need law. You just said things and it happened.
Thank you, Mr. Given.
The jury and the executioner. Thank you very much.
Thank you, my UPB brother. Mr. Aliu Kamara. Listen, I think the concern here is this government came in promising to do fundamentally different than business as usual. I think this is what we are asking. Are we doing anything fundamentally different than, say, George Weah or Ellen Johnson or Samuel Doe or William R. Tobo or William V.S. Totman?
La ilaha illallah.
Anyway. You know, if somebody calling God to help you,
No, you know, Mr. Given, you know what I love you so when you're an entertainer. He said nobody declared the answer. But anyway,
I would prefer for you to say the Minister of Economic, Minister of Finance, Minister of Defense.
But you know what you said, nobody declared the answer.
That's how you debunk someone like me.
Mr. Given, let me do my own closing, man.
Mr. Kamara, it's way past for the Washington dead time. You gotta hurry up so we can shut this down.
Give me out of words.
Yeah.
I will not follow you. I will not respond to you.
Even Allah can help you on this one. Even Allah will help you.
Anyway, no, listen. This government has done some things that we need to build upon. We're talking about people not enforcing the law and the policies of the government. What about the ombudsman that was set up? Now it's time for us to pressure the ombudsman to enforce these policies. See, every time when critics speak, they go straight for Joseph Boakai. They're not institutionalists. You know, they believe in individualism. You look at structures being put in place strategically. Let's not focus on a failure of the assets recovery team. Let us focus on the intent of the asset recovery thing. Was there some slacking? Was there some lack of foresightedness? We cannot dispute that. Do we have all the time in the world to fix it? Look at the intent and look at what's going on. The road project, a lot of times you guys who are the opposition to this man will say 22 million was spent for road. At no time has 22 million been spent for road. For some of you who have worked in different places that require contracts, the contract is signed over a period of time. You accomplish this, you get that. You accomplish this, you get that. That 22 million also covers road maintenance for a certain period of time. The money is not paid up front. I know most of you know that the budget was just passed. So there is no way how the Ministry of Public Works would have come up from nowhere with 22 million without any approval from the legislature. The money that was spent was about $8 million that was still in the coffers of the Ministry of Public Works, and that came from that 42 that was given to them in January. So the government has not spent 22 million on any road. Yes, that's what the project's worth, to cover the rainy season so that you can go to Maryland County and so on and so forth. But it has been a wonderful show, gentlemen. Let us not be carried away by our, our parties, or the fact that we have lost. See, when you lost to the tune of 1.5%, it's all you get. You have absolutely no chance. The best thing you can begin to do, as someone who understands politics, is to begin to find a new home, a home that is more safer. Because from 1% to 49%, I can see the magic. I can see the math. So focus on how to find the better route for you to go to now, so that you can make your presence felt if you want to. Look, ladies and gentlemen, it has been a wonderful show. Sometimes when Mr. Eastman comes up and say there are no professionals in the government, ask him to name 2 government officials that he knows that are not professionals. If he can get that, I will wire him $200. Thank you so much for having me.
Mr. Kamara, you change people's statements to suit your purpose.
But you said only one.
I did not. I even mentioned Mo Ali, who is a professional in his area. But more to that is the approach. If you're a professional and you don't exhibit professionalism, then I question your professionalism. Not because you get a degree. Mr. Kamara, I'm a man with 25 years of engineering experience. I don't care you get a piece of paper. Your paper means nothing if you don't know how to implement it.
Eastman,
okay, I will focus on competence in that case.
Don't argue with Allah.
Okay, all right, gentlemen, I want to thank you very much.
You women.
I want to thank you very much. And to our viewers, we apologize tonight. We couldn't take calls. You've been asking, and Dr. J to let you know.
Did we close?
Yeah, we had some technical problems. Yeah, we're closing.
Oh, we're closing now.
We did our closing already.
We did our closing?
Yeah. That was your closing you were doing.
No, it's only Aliyu they're closing on the show.
Okay, let's take 30 seconds. I thought we did. All right. Ali is already done. Okay. So we're not coming back to him. We're taking 30 seconds.
Mr. Gimmer spoke. Mr. Gimmer spoke. Dr. Pearson spoke. Mr. Ismail spoke.
All right, Mr. Kamara. Mr. Kamara, you got 30 seconds. Do your closing. 30 seconds.
No, it's not. I have my 30 seconds to Washington. On 30 seconds. Give 1 minute.
Oh, Washington's the ally now. All right, Father Washington, you got 1 minute. You got 1 minute now.
Yeah, my other voice than that.
Yeah, for me, I think
you better not say nothing negative. We'll take it back.
I think it's been a wonderful exchange, and I'm glad that we provide some education for our people. There's only thing that worried me about my country is the militarization of our country. When I see everything that happens in our country, people just want to be like militants, and that's what gets to me. Somebody's going to you are employed as a minister. You just walk to your office and, the people who are already there, let them welcome you. Where are all these people coming from? All these jumping and singing and shouting. Where is it coming from? Is it from the war? A superintendent is going to take power and going to take his office, and all these groups, they are singing. Everything has to be, that's what worries me. What's going on with the country? And the president is coming from somewhere, and all these people that they are shouting and look at this. Like, come on, we don't have to do all that. I mean, that's only worried about our country. But other than that, I think it's been a wonderful show.
Thank you, Father Washington. Jimmy, I will join you. I know the water and sewer, but there's another bright spot. I think something seems to be happening at the rural, electrification or energy rural. But Samuel Boakai Nagbe, no relation. We're friends, but we're not related. But I think he's doing something over there with the European Union. I think some 42 or 40 million euros signed recently to electrify the southeastern corridor. So, something. But go ahead, Jimmy. You're closing. 30 seconds.
Yeah, I will be short. The success of this administration is a success for all Liberians, and that's how we need to look at things. So it's not about we don't want to see an administration. It's never should be about that. But if you somebody who knows that somebody is proceeding wrong, you teach somebody how to drive, and you already see them going on the wrong side of the road, you would tell them, say, you're driving on the wrong side of the road. When you're ready to turn left, you have to put your signal light on. When you see people in front of you with red lights, it means you need to stop braking. You don't wait till you get there to brake. In other words, we have to advise our people when things are going wrong. And we do have professionals, Mr. Kamara. You have completely. I know them personally to be professionals in their career, but I'm not seeing them being given the opportunity, or for whatever reason, they're not exhibiting. I can name one or two, which I mentioned, Mo Ali. He's doing it the proper way. When somebody's doing something the proper way, you will know it because it's sustainable. But that superficial thing we do, and it doesn't last anything, it's not going to go anywhere. So we support Boakai. And Boakai is asking for people like you right now, Mr. Kamara, to go home. He wants people. He wants professionals down there, But the politics doesn't build nations. Unfortunately, that is what we think will make the change. And politics has not made that change. I'll raise it with that.
Thank you, Mr. Eastman. Dr. Pearson, your 30 seconds closing.
I just want to say thank you for having me tonight. I want to thank the panelists. It was a pleasure meeting all of you tonight, and I look forward to more exchange in the future. And I just want to say, look, we don't wish Liberia bad. We just we prep for our concerns with the hope that those who are in power will listen. I would like to see the president lead and have control over his cabinet and his officials, and I would like to see him hold them accountable by his leadership. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Mr. Gayman, your 30-second closing.
Yeah, thank you very much. A great show. You did an excellent job. You are pro at this.
Alio, you heard that?
Yes.
You're on the same side, so you're pro.
all those arguments and debate that we did during the UPP days and all the high school, it all came out to pay. But this is what I observed. Someone asked me if I was willing to go home or would I consider going and helping out in Liberia, and I said absolutely no. And I think even Mr. Kamara there, he is result oriented. If you got a job and you don't have a budget to implement anything, remember 95% of the budget is gone to recurring expenditure. That means if they hire Mr. Kamara to be a road builder and we don't have enough road, he will just be making policies and getting paid, but he can't get anything done. Not that he doesn't want to do it. Like Fagon used to say when they made him deputy minister, they just gave him a position. They gave him an office, no desk, no chair, nothing. He had to go out there and source for himself. So this is the kind of job.
You have 30 seconds. Don't give him more. 30 seconds passive.
You have a job. You have a job in name only, but you don't have a budget to do anything. So you just go to work, collect your pay, and in the end, you cannot accomplish anything. So it's not that people in the Boakai government.
Let's get rid of the Ministry of Information. Let's get rid of gender ministry. We don't need all the things.
Mr. Kumar, you had your 30 seconds. You gave your 30 seconds to Father Washington.
Look, I was still going to steal some from Gilman.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Doc. Great show.
All right. Gentlemen, let me thank you tonight for coming in to coronate my debut as the filling in the shoes of the greatest moderator ever since 1847. Mr. Dennis Jabba. Thank you very much. I think we had a great show. Hopefully, God willing, let's do this again next week around the same time. Until then, as Dennis would say, whether you're from LOFA or from UP or from CDC, we are one. Thank you very much. Have a great weekend.
You too. Have a great weekend.
We are Labira. Labira is our home. Labira people. Either you raise it or we want. Labira. Either you raise it or we want. Labira, Labira.